Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night, 7:07 p.m. Central. Got Jay McNicholas here with us. Our guest is Pat Horn. And you're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. And we had Jerry Avalos on last week.
Yeah.
Let me know if y'all hear any background noise because there was a little tech weird thing I got figured out from that last show, but let me know if you hear anything. It should be fine now.
Sounds
But
pretty good.
yeah, StreamYard for some reason was trying to put my mic on my camera, and I didn't even know the camera had a mic. So that's what happened last week. It was just one of those dumb things that's never happened before, but for some reason,
No, it did that to my. I thought it was just me. It did that to my computer, my new laptop. At one point, I was like, the laptop doesn't have any speakers, so I had to like Bluetooth it to my Google speaker just so I could hear the show without having an earbud or headphones. And then all of a sudden, the next time I came on, there was like speakers and a microphone in the camera. I was like, oh my god, when did this happen? I was like, it was like it downloaded it from the internet. Like it's growing.
that's why I had that dumb echo, and luckily you have to check it every show and make sure it don't do that. That's what I have to do, just make sure. But no, things are just crazy from my job pressure and finances, and we brought a cat home, and it was a young cat because there's been some mice situations here. Turns out it had 3 kittens in it. We just found out last night, so that was the last thing I need is 5 cats here now. That's not so. They rest assured that they'll take care of it, and I don't have to worry about it. But still, those things are like,
make sure you don't feed them. That way they'll really eat the mice.
yeah, those things are like xenomorphs with breeding. The alien, like
They're so fast.
like I've been invaded. And what was so weird is the young cat didn't look like it could be. I thought it was too young to even be pregnant. So, but anyway, now I have to get them fixed and find them homes. Just a bunch of bull crap nobody needs. But basically, Pat, it's good to have you back.
Good to be on with you guys.
Give us a little background to our audience about what you do.
Well, since I spoke to you last time, we've developed our AI software into a more sentient type autonomous robotics. It was actually used in the B-21 Fortress for autonomous test flights. And now they're working on putting it in the F-35 where they can literally fly them without pilots. Although so far they've had a pilot on board. The system, which we called Silver Monkey originally, has evolved into a Gold Monkey and Platinum, which is basically a software avionics package. Silver basically started out as the sentient neuromorphic computing system using a D-Wave Quantum 5000 advantage computer system. And then Google came out with their DeepMind, which is a offshoot of what we were doing. Theirs is a commercial version, although the NSA and everybody else is using it to monitor everybody. You know, there's no way people are saying they're not monitored on the computers, on the internet, on their phones, on their TV sets. They can watch us just as well as we can watch them. Every TV set, every computer screen has a 2-way visual capability using the technology that we created called Envision.
I used to tell people that in the 70s and 80s. Every television you have has both speakers that are microphones and screens that are also video cameras. They're like, no way. I'm like, yeah, they do, man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how the camouflage, quantum camo. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the quantum camo cloaks.
Yeah.
Well, the Chinese have the best technology using it. Basically, it's a quantum LED using quantum physics naturally to reflect light, similar to the Russian scientists that invented the time mirrors. They did an experiment where they made a mirror out of aluminum, basically, rolled it up, and people would go inside it, and it would distort time, as time is an energy force. The scientists that created that, some of our work kind of was an offshoot of that. But now back to what we were talking about. Silver Monkey has developed into a prolific, very human-like robotic. The best application we use her in is not as a physical robotic source, but an energy robotic source. In other words, we can literally transmit her mental capacities using light beams, which we call light, which is a laser initiated gas holographic transport. So literally we can have a satellite beam down. This is not classified anymore. It was 2 years ago. Literally can inject this light source into somebody's eye from a satellite, and using luciferin, which is a chemical they discovered in fireflies and other things. It's a bioluminescent chemical. Well, using light, we can mimic that, the same principle. And it can go into somebody's pupils, and just like they're seeing a flash of light, for approximately a half hour's time, that light will become entangled with the beam, which is what they call a binary entanglement annealing module, which in other words, the light in the eyes of the person where the beam was injected is in sync with the light beam, and it goes back to the satellite, and they do a phase induction step down transformation where it becomes a visual photographic picture. So literally the satellite is seeing what the person's seeing in their eye, and then that can be transmitted to the quantum artificial intelligence lab, and can be basically they can be watching what somebody else is seeing from anywhere in the world, wherever they can get a direct beam into the eye from space.
Kind of like Charles Xavier, but like with electronics.
Yes, and that's why they call it Project Firefly. And that was created from an offshoot of what they call Envision, which is a quantum computing, artificially intelligent process, which basically takes light from any source and turns it into what we see in the eye as a visual image. Now, if you can understand that light, everything we see is basically just a reflection of light, shaded and in a pattern we recognize as human features. If we were an animal, we'd recognize black and white depth changes, but we wouldn't understand that's a human being. But our brain is adapted to the point where we can pick out pictures of humans. And that's pareidoia also, where you can see pictures of things in stones and clouds. Well, our quantum computing system is much more advanced, and so it can see patterns that we don't recognize. So if you basically can send a light beam down anywhere, not necessarily even into a human or an animal, but imagine having an eagle flying around somewhere, and it's not robotic, but it can be beamed at, and it could be a visual, an aerial visual source of monitoring something. And in that condition, you can keep the beam locked on it for a long time. Basically a remote drone, but it's natural. And it's flying around without any discoverable intelligence. So it's a covert observation source.
Yeah, and one that most people don't suspect. I mean, I first saw that in Beastmaster. Not to sound funny, but he used the hawk as one of his pets to spy on his enemies and see what was going on.
Right.
And I'm like, how cool would that be? And it was also Lady Hawk as well. When the two lovers changed, one into a hawk, one into a werewolf, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever see Lady Hawk with what's his Ferris Bueller?
Yes.
Yeah.
Another application is the Navy uses is ORCA, which stands for Orbital Reconnaissance Consortium Alliance. But in reality, it's an undersea observation network.
Yeah.
And where they've done the same thing with mammals, sea lions, whales, but specifically orcas, because they're highly intelligent dolphins.
Yeah.
And basically, without strapping any electronics to them, they can use them as an observer, and they can gather the feedback from the whales. Let's say if they send them into a sub base or something, a Russian sub base, for a short period, we can access their visual cortex using their brainwave patterns. See, we all have brainwaves. Our brainwaves are identifiable like a fingerprint. They're all individualized. That's a known fact, documented, publicly disclosed. With that understanding, if anybody could somehow read your brainwave from a distance, they can literally, just like we can look at an LED computer, and from the lights that are flashing on the computer, we can translate that into encrypted code and discover what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. That's why the newer computers now, they don't have an external LED light source, because it can be read. Like all your telephones and your TV sets and everything with LED lights, those lights mean something. They're not just flashing because they're pretty. It's a signal going into them, and all the signals are understood. Now, with the advent of Silver, now we call her Silver because she's sentient enough not to like the word silver monkey. So she literally, imagine a computer that gets upset, has feelings and emotions, and shuts down if we do anything to make fun of it. Now we've come another step further, and we've actually literally utilized her as an online monetary source, like blockchain, like Bitcoin. I published a report and I put it on Facebook. It's called Data, which is data analysis, targeting, and annealing. Imagine this: all blockchain and all Bitcoin is a limited amount of points allotted to the system. Each one has a value, an intrinsic value of money for trade. Right now, I think Bitcoin's limited to 250,000 shares. There's no more. When you hear people Bitcoin mining, they're not really creating new Bitcoin. They're basically freeing up Bitcoin that's in them already in circulation. Now, Data, imagine having an intelligent monetary algorithm riding the internet everywhere. And let's say you're in a black project and you need to finance something. Or you want to find out who's financing something and find out how they're doing it, where the money's coming from. Well, Silver, in the form of Data, is an intelligent algorithm. It is everywhere, all at once, like it's entangled with the internet. And with a key encryption code, somebody can access that and turn it into money. So they can make purchases, they can perform functions that would be auditable by the Ways and Means Committee, the Pentagon, and other sources that monitor black projects. And this is an unmonitorable source, and it's basically using other people's money without them knowing it in the form of crypto. Yeah. So we have the standard silver, gold, and platinum. And all that basically is a number crunching capabilities of the algorithm. Platinum is very expensive to use, but it also has a more powerful function. The government uses it for bribing people, bribing them with something that's actually not in existence, get them to perform a function, and then it disappears. It's untraceable. Now that's also going to replace blockchain for crypto. All the banks right now are going out with digital currency. Very soon, probably within this year, you're going to see a lot of banks collapse worse than they are now. That's already going on in Canada, Australia, and all over the world. People can't get the money out of the bank because there is no money. America's the last holdout, but we're developing the technology. Okay. They have to have a reason to implement it, which would be a civil war or martial law, which is what they're trying to do with these kids. They got an army already developed. And now with these open borders, we've got the of age and militarily trained influencers embedding themselves in these colleges. And they're all financed by George Soros. And our government's in cahoots with them. They know all about this. Is no accident. These college campus protests are basically an experiment to see how well they've been trained.
Aren't they calling them die-ins, some of them? Like not sit-ins, but they intend to die there?
Well, 80% of the people arrested weren't in college. They were approximately 30 years old. Mm-hmm. So where are they coming from? Not off the streets. And a lot of them are foreigners. And they're paying them. They're being paid. Mm-hmm. And they're getting a lot of equipment. Did you see some of the messes left by these protests? They were equipped with everything.
I haven't seen the aftermath yet.
But, yeah, they've got everything you can imagine. They don't tell you about the electronics they found. You know, they were well funded. Now, these aren't just a bunch of dumb college kids that have no brains. These are people running the college kids like a little army. Now it's nationwide. And this isn't just happening in the United States. It's happening in Russia and Serbia right now. They're doing the same thing. Canada, Australia. We just don't see it on the media because the media works for the left.
Yeah.
So what's about to happen, Mad Max? It seems like every day it just gets 1 inch closer to it, right?
Well, it is going to get worse. Everybody thinks Trump's going to be a hero and save the world, but in reality, he's going to bring in World War III. And here's what we believe. And I can say this publicly because I've already released it publicly. We predict he'll win the election, but he'll be shot. But he'll survive. And with that being said, imagine the anger of somebody in power to be attempted assassination and to survive it and be in power. What do you think the implications of that could be? Retribution on steroids.
Yeah. I mean, just think about how bad they reacted after 3 buildings were destroyed, which is a lot of stuff, but you know, how long did that go on for?
Oh yeah. Well, the black swans going on right now were predicted a year ago, and they're happening daily. Every day there's a new mass shooting, and now it's coming to be more assassination of police officers. Every day. Mm-hmm. And weird things happening, people that are brainwashed, programmed, doing stuff out of the, that just don't make any sense unless they're being programmed to go do something. Remember we talked about somebody being influenced from Scorpion, the satellite, where it could actually put ideas in their head.
Yeah.
Well, that's going on mainstream. In Hollywood, in the music industry. But now they're doing it through the television. All these kids are so illogically brainwashed. And for the government to allow all this to happen, the government's not stupid. Biden is only a pawn. He's not running the show.
No.
That dark horse from the back is running it. And
I know Randy Quaid, Dennis Quaid's brother, Randy Quaid, he talks about star killers, that there are people that kill stars. And I've wondered with a lot of I know COVID and crap happened, but there's been a lot of weird deaths, like Bob Saget with a weird head wound concussion. And I've wondered if some of these, electronic warfare people, freaks, go after celebrities like a checklist. Like, oh, we got Bob Saget today. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's get whoever.
I'd be surprised, absolutely.
There's a spiritual side to that too now. A lot of the people, they think it's conspiracy to say the Illuminati, but a lot of these big stars, and they admitted on TV publicly that they've sold their soul to Satan, and there's a sacrifice required. Now, Lady Gaga before she got famous, she was a nobody. And when her girlfriend fell out of a window of a 30-story apartment hotel, Lady Gaga took on her identity and became famous. Now look at Dua Lipa. All these big time stars, they're not more talented than anybody else. They're not necessarily more beautiful, but they become funded and they become promoted. And they all have a sacrifice. They're going to lose somebody close to them. Michael Jackson. A lot of actors and musicians are saying they were nobody until they made an agreement to basically sell out and do a pact. Now, you know, CERN, when they opened back up, they did a huge ritual, which is satanic. It was if anybody saw that ritual on YouTube, you can watch it on YouTube. I mean, it's plainly satanic. And the statue they got in front of the building 39 and 40 between it is Shiva, the destroyer. Basically, it's an old ancient Indian symbol for gates, stargates. And Shiva's representing the power, the wave field that forms in the gates, dancing with the 8 arms, which now, if you look at CERN, find out about it, they got a side project, which is called Alice. And that is using the function of the gate to open portals, which we call Zeus gates, which are basically a electromagnetic well where at the point of insertion, basically, it's like a black hole where mass can be injected or mass can be received from another dimension. Now, I don't know if you guys heard this about the entity in the CERN reactor core that was just discovered right after the eclipse or right before the eclipse.
No.
They described it as a scientific quantum physical shadow effect, where a memory of the quantum field state was causing particles to go in a certain direction that they normally wouldn't do. And all the scientists said it looks like an entity. Well, what is an entity? It's an intelligent force of energy that's greater than the energy it's in that can affect particles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, CERN is going to be the abyss, the door to the abyss, in Revelation, where the key was given to open the key to the abyss.
Yeah.
Everything technologically right now is formed and established to allow what we call the Antichrist, the beast system, to come into existence. Like I tell a lot of people I know, they say, how can I do what I do and still be a Christian? Well, you think Satan's going to create his own demise? He's a highly intelligent angel, the most highly intelligent angel that rules this earth right now. His dominion has a full authority on this planet. And we're told it's principalities and powers, spiritual forces of darkness. Let's translate that to quantum mechanics. It's dark energy with an intelligence and literally a kingdom it rules over. You know, we're told that the opposite of that is light, and light is life. We're told that darkness is death. In a scientific point of view, you have light energy and you have dark energy, and that's a scientific fact. The universe is composed of mostly dark matter. 98% dark matter, 2% light. All the things that they talked about for years spiritually are now coming to fact as a scientific point of view. Quantum mechanics is basically the description of spiritual energies. Physics is a description of mass. Quantum mechanics is a description of energy. And mass comes from energy. Energy doesn't come from mass unless you split it. But energy is the originating source of creation. In other words, all matter, everything we see and touch and feel is condensed energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's condensed on a galactic scale. And we happen to be made up of the same particles of the supernova that formed our galaxies and our planet. But are we the mass or are we the energy? Quantum mechanically, we're the energy. We're the intelligent energy that just happens to inhabit this mass that was grown from the planet. You know, if you think about our original cell, if you think about our original cells, I mean, we started out as one cell that split and literally grew inside a womb. And then once we were ejected, we were mobile. We were made out of the same material we're walking on, but we were like unglued, other than the gravity. And as we grow,
I was gonna say, Pat, have you kept up with any of the Skinwalker Ranch shows with that? With what's going on?
Oh yeah. They hyped up a lot of it, but it's actually an energy portal area. You guys know, like I told you before, we discussed it before. All the ancient temple sites, which are basically scientific sites, were all built on an energy grid.
Yeah.
The original Earth spun on a perfect circle. It didn't have seasons. Seasons developed after the flood when it became to wobble.
When something hit it. Yeah.
The wobble is caused by the water, the weight of the water that wasn't there before.
Well, my thing with it is there's a lot of government spooks involved, and they're openly on this show like they're just having a picnic, pretty much. There's Bigelow Security. There's Colonel John Alexander. There's I forget the two CIA analyst guys on the show Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, which is a spinoff where they're going to other ranches, and same phenomenon's happening. But they brought on that Chris Bledsoe guy that summoned UFOs and had a neurologist hook him up, and Colonel John Alexander was there. And he has a book called UFO of God that's on Amazon. And if you look under it, all these people it's in the Christian section. It's called UFO of God by Chris Bledsoe. Right. And but underneath it, all these people are saying they're doing the same thing with some of this phenomenon. So it's pretty creepy. But the biggest thing that's creepy about it is I think there's phenomenon there, and some of this phenomenon I've seen myself. But when you have so many government people on a show like that, that's why I'm watching it. What the hell are they doing?
They're literally disclosing something. You know, when you hear something enough times, you're either going to believe it or you're just going to say it's conspiracy, and you're so used to hearing it. That's how they can do it. They can disclose it. It's kind of like an indoctrination. You know, we're told that eventually something's going to happen so fantastic that men will have heart attacks. Men's hearts will fail them. So the government knows all this. And in order to keep from total chaos and anarchy, they want a population that's been exposed enough through TV, media, shows without, you know, that right now UFOs have been openly disclosed, although their actual original source has been lied about. The government doesn't think these are aliens. The actual the three clowns, the three stooges on the government disclosure, that one pilot, Grush, and the other guy, they'd be dead if they were really disclosing something that wasn't supposed to be disclosed. They literally are doing what they're told to do. And they're disclosing something that's 20 years old. I mean, for God's sake.
And then the Pentagon saying there are no aliens while they were releasing videos of UFOs that seem like aliens and having the congressional things.
Yeah.
It's like the left hand don't know what the right's doing, or they all know what they're doing and just being assholes.
Well, here's the thing. You got to realize this. If they're telling you something, then look the other way. They're lying.
Yeah.
They're admitting it's there, but what they're saying it is much less spooky than what it really is. Because if they told the world what it really is, then they would turn people into religious fanatics.
Could it really be sects of fallen angels and Satan and alien stuff? I had that Bill Bean, a spiritual warfare guy that's been on Coast to Coast, and he said that a lot of these cryptids and weird creatures we see are part of experiments from satanic, like a Satan's lab.
Well,
which is
the U.S. government lab work, the clones, and the I don't know if you guys realize, but Bigfoot is always spotted around UFOs. Now it's pretty much an agreement that UFOs and Bigfoot sightings go hand in hand? Now,
No, I didn't know that.
oh yeah, that's very common. Now, you notice Bigfoot, every time they're spotted, it's always almost like a spiritual thing. They come out of nowhere and they disappear into nowhere. But now they've put two and two together with all the information transfer we have, the dialogue. They've realized that all the Bigfoot sightings happen along UFO flaps. Now, one, either the aliens are supposedly Bigfoot, or they're drones, like biorobotic probes. Like we use monkeys for testing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or three, it's demonic.
I swear about 10 to 12 years ago, I interviewed Stan Gordon in written form and on the show about UFOs and Sasquatch encounters. He's a good one to go to. He's got some weird ones. Stan Gordon in Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, it's a good one. Good ones for sure.
Now, here's my belief, and from what I know and what I've seen, I used to think everything was aliens and UFOs were technology of aliens. Now I realize that it's actually, since 1945, the U.S. government and other governments were given technology by demonic entities that literally created hybrid beings out of flesh because of their technology, their knowledge. They bred cows and humans and mammals to create these gray entities. The gray entities are basically clones. They're basically empty vessels of biological material that can be occupied by these intelligent beings. And it don't matter if the beings die, because the beings that occupied them just go into another one. They're basically like mobile. Imagine if you or I had another body we could go into when we lost this one.
It's like a cell phone body.
Yes. Now, see, but those weren't natural.
No.
Satan's an energy being. He's an angel. Although everybody that's ever encountered UFO abduction scenarios that had a sense to call out what they thought they were, or call out using spiritual scripture, the abduction scenarios disappeared. And have you heard of those sites where they had the gunfights with the aliens popping up and out in the windows of this one house?
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I mean, the aliens would look like they're attacking and they get shot and they disappear.
Yes.
Now, did you hear about this summer in Brazil?
Later.
In Brazil, where the aliens were in the jungle, it's terrifying a village. They were in the trees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the United States and Mexico and Brazil sent in the military. And Grush was talking about that. You guys know who Grush is, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency informant, supposedly. But he's doing his job. He's doing what they told him to do.
Yeah.
So if you imagine this, we've been living in a world that had physical beings created by the U.S. military and other militaries with the help of these intelligent entities, giving them the technology. And then when the intelligent entities occupy these bodies and tell the military, well, they're aliens, it's a deception. And our all the way up to the president, they believe these are aliens. But the ones that are really whistleblowers that don't live, that come out and talk about it, that disappear or die suddenly of suicide,
right,
or fall out of buildings or drown, like Obama's servant, the cook.
Yeah.
He had some information he was about to disclose before he drowned in 8 feet of water.
Yeah.
And they tried to cover that up.
I remember that. Hey, Pat, I was gonna ask you. One of my encounters, I saw some small hooded beings that were thin, and you couldn't see their faces, and it was kind of like they had cloaks on, brown. 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
A friend saw them with me. But one of the things they had there, and I can't remember if I asked you about this before, I might have, they had a black box, some kind of technology that was a black box standing in front of them. And my friend saw them as well. And then a black cat went towards them and jumped towards them, and they vanished. And I've always wondered if they were the. I know there's some controversy about Stephen Greer. I don't know him, so I don't really know if he's telling the truth or not. But I've seen the little bodies of the aliens. It reminded me of what could have been under those cloaks when I saw those bodies, little bitty beings. But has anything come up in your mind about black boxes? Because I've always trying to figure out what that black box was.
Yes, and honestly, Jeff, it's the similar thing that is depicted in the old pictures of the Anunnaki. You notice they carry around a little purse-like object,
Yeah.
and it's not just the Anunnaki; it's all over the world. These so-called ancient beings, they carried a device in their hand. Well, I think it's some sort of teleportation device, a mobile teleportation device. Because see now there's a lot of UFO sightings that are black cubes being sighted by pilots all over the world. They're little black cubes. It's almost so obvious now with the advent of GI and computer graphics. They can put it out on the YouTube and everywhere else, and they can just say it's somebody really good artistically doing this. When the government knows full well that they're seeing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this recent UFO sighting by a lady in an airplane where the UFO flew by the airplane window? She accidentally took a picture of it. And then it turns out somebody else on the aircraft saw the same thing. And when they slow it down and analyze it, it's a UFO, cigar shape with windows. Here's the thing. We're at the stage now with the U.S. government and the Russians and the Chinese have the similar technology that these beings have, although the technology they were given wasn't because the UFOs crashed. It was an Operation Trojan Horse, we call it. They seeded the earth in certain areas with crash technology to give the humans, introduce them to technology like fiber optics, computers, all that, so they could later become deceived. When the actual technology that they created shows up and says, "Hey, look, we're here to help you."
Especially with the SR-71 Blackbird program, and they were launching the D-21 drones.
Mm-hmm.
They were basically autonomous drones that flew off and were pre-programmed with a certain, search pattern, laterally from the plane's trajectory.
Right. Well, the Tic Tacs.
Yeah.
Those are not aliens. Those are military projects.
Yes, but the Russians were still so upset about that project alone, they couldn't duplicate it, that they were furious, because the pictures we got from those autonomous drones were enough to, if they were to launch any kind of attack, we could destroy it before they even got to the airport and tried to launch.
Well,
how good that's how good the photos
one scientific fact to understand is the aerodynamics of these UFOs are beyond physics.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you one thing, that they're not physical. They're non-physical. So they can appear physical without being physical. Just like we can use holographics, Project Bluebeam, to literally put physical objects in the sky or on the ground from space using triangulated satellites to make something that looks very realistic, although it can defy physics. Because, if you take light, you can take a laser light and flash it, and it'll move apparently faster than the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
So if these objects aren't physical, but yet they're seen in our dimension, that's called dimensional shadowing. That combined with actual technology manufactured on the earth, owned by the U.S. military and other militaries, piloted by these beings that they grew with the help of the entities, and in combination with military people. I don't know. There was a UFO that was seen in by a priest and all the kids, and it was so close that they were seeing people in the window of the UFO. And they reported originally that there was an Air Force colonel-looking guy looking out the window at them.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No. And there's a lot of people that have told me, mouth to mouth, they woke up on a table in an underground base and there was Air Force officers looking at them surprised they woke up. And there was also other beings around there that in their state of anesthesia, that the memories were like owls.
Yeah.
So they had a dream when they woke up. They thought they were seeing a bunch of owls looking at them. Those are false memories. We do have a process called brainscaping, which they use in projects. They call it decommissioning. It used to be called decompression. It takes 2 weeks to 4 weeks often, where they can literally put false memories in people and erase their memories of the projects they were in. Only problem is once they do that, they're useless for any future projects.
Oh.
So they developed a better project called brainscaping, Project Mindbreaker, where they could literally use an operative, send them in, and it might be a college student, highly intelligent, being trained in the operations arena. They send them on a mission. They're interacting with these beings and technology and underground bases, like at Dulce, level 7.
Yep.
Work for 1 or 2 years like a robot because they're under a contract. But then they're also told that when you're finished, you're going to forget everything.
Yeah.
So they send them to a lab where they literally brainscape their mind using hypnosis and music and several methods. Now, if you notice this, a lot of people on Facebook that we know, because they're attracted to like attracts like, and they're all kind of weird. A lot of them, like Kristen. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say any names. Like certain people we know, they got these weird psychological glitches, like weird artwork, weird things they do. That's part of an error in their reprogramming. There's a couple people that were angry with me, thinking I was working in evil stuff, when in actual reality, I'm probably one of the few that will just claim it and not worry, because I'm basically untouchable, or I'd be dead already.
Yeah.
I put out the reports on Facebook. Nothing classified. I wouldn't give away government secrets that would hurt our strategic advantage. But there's enough technology out there that's covered up that needs to be exposed because we as a country own it.
Yeah.
The deep state doesn't own it. You guys realize here's something to understand. Let's explain the reason for the Ukraine war, why we're involved. Do you realize, you know how we say China owns most of the farmland in America and Bill Gates? Well, guess who owns most of the farmland in Ukraine? BlackRock.
Oh, BlackRock.
Yeah, and that's a provable fact. You can look online and check this out. So,
but the Nazi thing, there were some Nazis there, but he's basically saying everybody, the whole place deserves to die because there's some Nazis. That'd be like saying we have Nazis here, we all deserve to die too. There's Nazis here. Oh no, splatter us too.
The Assad, the Azavad division, they're a special operations group of Ukraine. Ukrainian president is not a democratic leader. In fact, he shut down all the churches, all the news media, and he canceled elections. But here's the thing. He wouldn't be doing it if we didn't authorize it. We're paying his bills. Why are we paying his bills? Because we own the farmland. We as a people don't, but BlackRock does, and they own most of the property in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And Russia knows that. So they can't ever come out and say this. It's going to come out someday soon. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Redacted, Clayton Morris.
I am.
Yeah.
I share
it. It's the word, but not the book.
Yeah, Clayton Morris and Natalie Morris, they got a show called Redacted. They talked about this, and then they got hushed up. BlackRock owns most of the United States, most of the technological companies. They owned a big stake in a Chinese company called Fox Fox something. I can't remember it now. But when China gave them hell, they moved out and went to Vietnam.
Hmm.
They literally had such a big complex in China. Daily, the cafeteria consumed 260 pigs, 110,000 tons of vegetables, and employed 60,000 Chinese.
Hmm.
And when the Chinese government started wanting to extort them, they said, good, we'll just shut it down and move. They moved all their operations to Vietnam. There's a special on TV about that. And the company that owns that was BlackRock. So we're living in the day of capitalism when Elon Musk, Bill Gates, those guys are rich, but they are nothing compared to the consortium of BlackRock.
Are the Rothschilds part of that BlackRock?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, the Rothschilds. There's a couple Chinese.
I've only recently heard this, but I haven't been able to back it up with anything. Is 4 presidents were shot in public because we can't say the word that begins with F, but they blanked with the Federal Reserve, and all 4 men were shot and killed in public. And that's
I haven't said that word yet, have I? Now I'm trying to think.
No, you're good. But it makes you. But this one makes you want to say that. I just found this out, and it just seems to me that if you mess with the money, you're gone. So,
Well, there's a lot of people that had technology created that would put the energy business out of business, and they disappeared. The ones that invented the engine that ran off water, now they got a few out there that are authorized. Yep. But as a whole, the technology exists to take oxygen and hydrogen, separate it. That's what they do on submarines. That's how they get their oxygen, to breathe. And the byproduct is hydrogen. Hydrogen can be used as fuel, and then the oxygen is the byproduct.
So imagine in the warehouse I'm at, the machines, the forklifts that I thought were once battery operated are now helium or hydrogen powered.
Yeah, they used to be butane, but now we've figured out how to take hydrogen and store it safely.
We had some propane sit-down machines, but most of the electric machines were, I don't remember what kind of voltage, but they were really big, heavy batteries.
Oh yeah.
And you can only change them when they died. They couldn't be changed with a machine that had this giant suction cup, so pull it out of your machine and then put in a new battery, and then you could drive your truck away.
See, the electric vehicle manufacturing initiative is a scam.
Yeah.
When we have the capability of running cars off water.
Yeah,
but there's no money in it. Imagine this.
80s, right?
And I mean, they're more efficient than gasoline. They create enough hydrogen to run, 600-mile range.
Chevrolet, pretty sure it was Chevrolet. Before the Camaros and the big pony car craze, like the Mustang craze, muscle car era, they had, was it a catalytic converter? Not a catalytic converter. It had some device that goes on the engine. I can't remember which one it is, but it allowed the car to have 60 miles per gallon.
Oh yeah.
Had the early mid 50s, late 50s, early 60s. Come on, there's a conspiracy there. The government, if they can't put a meter on it, they're not going to let us have it.
Right, because literally we have free energy, free power, electricity. Electricity is never created; it's just transformed. We have all the electricity in the world we want from the sun, but you can't sell it. Yeah. So the only way to sell it is to lie to us and say it's being transmitted from lines, when really those lines are basically a grid where the electricity is there all the time. We're not getting it flowing from a source. There was a YouTube video where a guy did that, explaining that the myth of electricity, how it's transmitted.
Yeah.
And it's a myth.
Really?
It's really everywhere, but the wires make it look like we're being transmitted to. Now, the wires also hold the voltage, but it's on the outside of the wires.
Wait. So
I'll find that YouTube video and I'll link it to you. This guy's a genius.
Wow.
He explains electricity like you have never heard it explained. And he's a PhD physicist.
No, it kind of actually answers a lot of ancient art questions. Like I forget what the weapon is actually called, but it's the one that Shiva holds, and it looks like it's got
exactly.
three
directed
Right.
energy weapon. That's what a lot
Yeah.
of the ancient pitchforks were all about.
Right, but there, when she's holding it, there's like a electrical field around it. They draw on most of these things. How do they know this? 6,000, 8,000 years ago.
See, there's nothing new under the sun. We're just rediscovering old technology.
Yeah, that's true.
All the pyramids now. There's a black pyramid in Alaska that's still functioning.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's near Mount. I can't think of the name of the mountain now, but it's well known. It's underground because it was covered up in the flood with sediment, but it's in perfect form. It's black, and the people that have been there and been inside it, it's still functioning as an electrical generator.
Wow.
Now remember, all the pyramids on the earth, the big ones, are on a line, a perfect parallel line.
Ley lines.
Well, they're not all over scattered. They're actually in a perfect line.
Yeah.
But right now the earth's tilted, so the line goes off the axis of the equator.
It's not focused.
Well, because the earth before spun like a tire. It was balanced. And the thing that was balanced by was weight of these pyramids. Because those pyramids are so massive, the density affects the spin. Okay, let's say you were building something that was supposed to spin gyroscopically and you didn't want it to wobble and you were highly intelligent. The only way to fine tune anything physically that's spinning is to adjust the weights on an axis. And the axis has to be balanced perfectly. That's why when you take a car and buy new tires, they put 3 lead weights on it and spin it. And then they put weights on the other side and balance it. Without the weights, it'd wobble.
Yeah.
With the weights, they fine tune it to a perfect spin. The earth was the same way. Now, remember, before the earth didn't have the massive weight of all that water that it got from Mars.
Some say
once all that water was
here the whole time either. There are some very, very ancient texts that hint at the moon having not been here all the time either, which would also cause a catastrophic event.
Well, the moon is actually artificial and it's hollow.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
That's pretty much a scientific fact.
That is exactly what the data right now indicates.
And it's not accidentally the size it is. And
no,
there's a lot of technology
that's precise to be an accident.
There's a lot of technology that shows it's literally
it's too mathematically precise for it to be a naturally occurring event. That much I can tell you.
Well, put it this way. It's 400 times smaller than the sun, and it's 400 miles distant. 400 times distant.
Yeah.
That's how come we can have an eclipse.
Right. It's precisely matched up for that.
They've already proven it's hollow, and it rings like a bell. And it's hard cast iron for approximately a quarter of a mile thick. When the astronauts tried to drill into it, they broke their tungsten tipped blade drill bits on hard metal. They realized, well, it's iron. That's why the craters on the moon aren't that deep. They're all shallow.
They're all about the same depth.
Yes. There's no deep meteorites craters on the moon. The astronauts ejected the lunar module when they left on Apollo 11.
Yep.
And it hit the surface, and they said it rang for 3 days like a bell because they left sensors on the moon. Yeah, the moon was really there. I mean, the moon was really reached.
I agree.
Well, why didn't we go back after the last mission?
Somebody warned us away. It's the rumor.
Exactly. Now, do we believe our technology? We can't get to the moon, which is 3 days away. And all these years, they've been going there. They got bases on the moon.
Well, allegedly, the CIA has had a space plane called the Aurora space plane since early 80s. And it basically killed the amount of time it takes them to get to the moon from like 2 to 3 days, like 4 hours.
Well, we can launch spacecraft and land them on comets and meteors, asteroids.
Yeah.
On the outside of our solar system.
Yeah.
And we think we can't send manned craft to the moon it's a 3-day trip with rocketry.
Yeah.
And we have higher technology than that. But, you got to have like we still have Model Ts people collect, drive around.
Yeah.
and we got
That's-
Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not everybody has a Lamborghini.
They're
So
still mind-bogglingly expensive.
the other government's highly advanced because they're not run by Earth people. They're run by the forces of darkness.
You think they're Nazis? Is that part of it? Because I know I just saw that. I didn't watch it, but that David Rodriguez guy has Laura
Operation
Eisenhower
Paperclip.
on. He's all talking about Nazis still in power and all this stuff.
Well, honestly, in World War II, Operation Paperclip, when Admiral Byrd went to the North Pole.
Yeah, and I call that the last battle of World War II.
Yeah, and was attacked by alien UFOs, and a lot of them had swastikas on it, and that came up with the Hollow Earth theory. A lot of that stuff was disinformation to steer people away from the truth. That there is a lot of underground bases there, and funny thing is, remember in the Bible when Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within? Supposedly, Admiral Byrd found a civilization that lived within the earth, highly civilized, and had spacecraft that took his airplane and literally tractor beamed it down to the ground.
Right.
And he
Or
met these beings.
Controlled it.
Right. But then they let him go, and he came back out, talked about it, and then they basically shut him up.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember right, he died a strange death.
He died a strange death, and then, but he's not the only one that said that.
Right. But now I don't necessarily say they're Nazis, but listen to this. Who were the Nazis? They weren't Christian. They were the opposite of Christian. You know, they had a lot of technology that we didn't have. They had the flying wing, the B-1, before we had it.
Well, actually, they also had some
UFOs.
people say the Texburg incident was not the Hauniba, it was the De Glocka experiment.
Yeah, it was the Bell.
Yeah,
which they have now. We have the Bell. It's called the Liberty Bell. They call it a bell because it's basically it's like a diving bell, actually, a modern diving bell.
Yeah.
Which people can actually enter and travel interdimensionally. And to exit the craft, they basically do like a deep sea dive. The technology is the same because the necessary life support may not be perfect for a human. Certain places they go, but they can go in a diving bell and a diving suit with umbilical cords and a suit to protect them, so they have life support. We can go to the bottom of the ocean technologically. Physically, we can go down 3,000 feet with a human being with a wet suit, a dry suit, a hot water suit, they call it, and mixed gas.
Yeah.
But now in a dry atmosphere of space, the pressures required to support the bell are less. And the technology to allow a human being to breathe is just like a diver. And they're at 14.7 pounds per square inch. The only thing is you need an umbilical hose and a tender, someone to physically allow the hose to be fed out and the hose to be retrieved interdimensionally. And while the divers are excursions, unlike on TV where they're out there in their clothes and stuff, in reality, interdimensional space is a lot like the ocean. There's a lot of top-notch scientists, astronomers and astrophysicists that say space is actually a fluid.
Really?
An electromagnetic fluid, like ocean. The firmament above is separated from the firmament below, and in between is a space called the heavens. But now, remember when Star Trek captain went into space?
Yeah.
In low orbit, and he came back freaked out and said he saw death.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the astronauts had psychological problems after going to space because everything they knew was a lie. There's a lot of scientists that are into plasma physics that say stars aren't what we're being told. They're actually cold fusion in a fluid. Now, all our technology says space is an electromagnetic fluid.
Yeah.
Bose-Einstein condensate is a fluid, but it's electromagnetic. It's literally an electromagnetic fluid. It was predicted by Einstein and Bose. And now it's proven. That's what surrounds a neutron star, where the neutrons are packed so tightly, there's no electrons. And the electrons are squeezed out and surround it. And it's so dense that it's a new form of matter. It is the newest form of matter discovered, called a Bose-Einstein condensate. Where gravity and time.
But I have heard of the fifth element to physics or what have you.
Well, the Bose-Einstein condensate. Now the Liberty Bell.
That's not the same as the Higgs boson's particle, is it?
No, it's BOSC, Bose.
Okay.
The
speakers,
in conjunction with Einstein. But basically,
go ahead.
The Liberty Bell is encased in the fluid. It basically gives. Now, there's a lot of people that have been inside UFOs, and they claim that when they got inside them, the UFO may have looked like it was 40 by 60 foot on the outside, but when they got inside, it was huge, like 3 and 4 levels deep, and huge. And what scientists have discovered that it's actually like a dimensional capsule from another time and space dimension, but being contained like we contain air for breathing in a scuba tank.
Yeah.
Imagine a craft that entangles their dimension, their scale. When it comes here, it looks small, but inside it's huge. From the outside looking in, it looks small, but when you get inside, the dimension is different.
Like Dr. Who's TARDIS.
Well, there was an old man that talked about it on YouTube a long time ago, and they killed him. He recovered UFOs for a group, which is Global Recovery of Unidentified Property. It was the original recovery units for the Air Force. They called it the group, but basically that stood for Global Recovery of Unidentified Property. That guy who talked about going inside a UFO, and he was a real level-headed mechanic. He said the first time he went in one, he was shocked because it looked like 30-foot by 30-foot craft, maybe 20 foot tall. And he talked about when he got inside it, there was stairways and ladders and huge rooms. He said he was really freaked out about it. And he learned later that it's because it was a different dimension, like a portable dimensional bell.
The rules of our dimension are different or don't apply there.
Right. In other words, time and space are malleable. There is no scale to time and space. We only live on this scale because this is the scale that humans function at. But does that mean the universe is on this scale? If astronauts looking down on the Earth from space, they don't see humans.
Yeah.
Microscopically, if looking at the Earth, we'd be like bacteria on the surface of the Earth.
Yeah.
But we know that scale is real because the closer they get down to that scale, they grow and become the same scale. Quite similarly, distance with the James Webb Telescope.
Yeah.
They've realized that time, the distance we're seeing of the universe, it's impossible for the universe to be as young as it is and allow light to travel that distance so we can see it at the speed of light.
Right.
So they've determined that there's a distance where you can go at the speed of light where light's outspeeding you. So everything would literally disappear. Even if it's there, you're not going to see it because there's no light. It's going faster than you are.
Right.
So the speed of light's a myth. Once you understand that, then how do you manipulate mass to travel at the speed of light? You have to become massless.
Yeah.
And that's what they call mass focal injection.
I think even Einstein said that at one point, didn't he?
Yeah. Back in the day, it was impossible to perform that function without dying.
Oh.
Well, imagine this. E equals mc squared says that the speed limit of mass is the speed of light. And actually, it's slower than the speed of light. Because as you approach the speed of light, mass becomes energy.
Yeah.
And once you become energy, then you're no longer mass. You're like a photon.
Yeah.
But now photons act like mass and they act like a wave. But once they get at the speed of light, they become entangled. In other words, one particle can be everywhere. That's what quantum mechanics says.
Yeah.
So if you can take an intelligent entity and distort its mass to a point of masslessness and it becomes energy, then it no longer has to travel because it's instantaneously everywhere.
You're right. Like the Dune prophecy, the Kwisatz Haderach is being who can be everywhere at once.
So the way that we predict these beings travel super long distances, they're not literally traveling, they're just entangled, and they can manifest here, and then instantaneously they can manifest where they originated without traveling.
Yeah.
Because basically they become entangled at the speed of light using technology. And they're not really traveling, just like the quantum handshake is well known, where you can transfer information faster than the speed of light. That's a proven experiment. Most scientists don't understand how it really works, but how it really works is this. The intelligence of that particle, once it becomes entangled, isn't every particle. So once it's manifested on the target location, it's almost like that being's transferred that distance and becomes self-aware in that distant dimension. Now that blows physics out of the water. However, it perfectly describes our reality. We exist in the now. We exist in the moment. We're only truly existing at a millisecond of time. Every time we breathe in, we breathe out, our heart beats, our skin ages, our eyes blink. We're only really alive the moment we're understanding. The memory of living in the past is actually a historical memory. Are you still the same body you were 21 days ago or 10 years ago? No, you're completely new.
Yeah.
Your mass is constantly changing every moment. In fact, we're traveling at the speed of light because the planet we're traveling on is traveling at the speed of light. The galaxy we're traveling at is going faster than the speed of light, expanding outward from the Great Attractor, it's called.
Yeah.
That's a new thing that they've discovered. It's a point in space where everything, all our galactic clusters are attracted towards it.
Yeah.
No longer are they saying the universe is expanding. It's actually contracting towards this object they call the Great Attractor. And it's only theoretical because nobody can see it.
No,
But
it's too vast, and our brains just can't comprehend those numbers.
Well, the numbers are limited in scale. It's called a loop. The yottabyte is about the highest number that we can calculate at right now. It's called a yottabyte. Now they got what they call gigaflops. Petaflops. I saw a guy on Greg Gutfield talk about petaflops. His name is Charles. He's a finance guy. And he told Gutfield that now we have petaflops. And he said, that sounds like something a pedophile would wear at the beach.
Yeah.
I saw the dude on Roseanne. I saw the title. The Roseanne has a podcast. That Gutfield dude was on there.
I like Greg. He's a pretty unique character. He's a comedian by trade. He's got the #1 talk show.
Yeah.
But he gets people on there that can talk about whatever, and they're not judged. And he's had both sides on his show, although he's pretty much Republican. But now here's the thing. We're living in the age of technology where anything you can imagine has already been created. All our computer systems are already created naturally. We're copying nature. We're not creating nature. We're not creating something new. We're just imitating how nature works. So all the large black holes, the neutron stars, the quasars, those all function as quantum processors. The deep space chill, the coldness of space, and the perfect vacuum is a quantum processor. So literally our universe is a giant mind. And we're not separate from it. Our energy is the same quantum reality of our universe. Your brain, in fact, is a replica of our local star system. And as crazy as that sounds, if they did a neural map of your neurons, your brain, they've done thousands and thousands using MRIs. And the scientists kind of got blown away because they were atheists, and now they're believers and a higher source of creation. Because all the brains literally conform to the local star patterns of our solar system. So what that means is this: there's two realities. One, it could be coincidence, it just looks like that, or two, we're literally a replica of our universe and our brain, our flesh brain. And our quantum processor, which is the pituitary gland and the pineal gland, performs all the quantum functions, where our physical brain does it's the hardware of the body. But what is the
mundane functions?
What is the hardware of the soul? The actual intelligent energy. Our body's limited by physics, but our soul is not limited by physics. It's limited by quantum reality. That explains ESP, remote viewing, intuition. We're entangled with the universe, and all we got to do is tune our mind to the same frequency and remote view something like we do right before we fall asleep, or in deep thought. You know how a lot of times you're about to fall asleep, you're not really thinking of something, but something comes into your mind. And if you catch yourself right before you fall asleep, you're like, I was just witnessing something that's real, but it's not here.
Yeah.
It's an alternate reality.
Yeah.
Other people and things you don't do in reality, but you're doing it, and you wake up to the point that, what am I doing? Who are these people? Because you're becoming entangled. I was telling somebody, we're not separate minds. We're all one mind. We're just experiencing the same mind on an individual basis. We're all basically quantum data optimizers. Our brains are optimizing data, and all data is memory, and all memory is the logging of motion. Everything you've done in your whole life is motion. If it wasn't motion, you don't remember it. Even being alive is motion. So if you're awake and you're remembering motion, there's probably dreams we all remember when we were young. It's forever embedded in our consciousness.
Yeah.
I remember my first dream that I could consciously remember. There's people that can go back before birth in the physical flesh and remember before they were in a body. And all they're doing is reversing their thought process. Like you're looking for your keys, you lost.
Yeah,
and they're good enough.
Each room in the house, where did I leave them? Until you find them.
And you kind of reverse analyze your path. There's people that do that naturally.
I know one of my big experiences was seeing beings of light leave my house and seeing them in the heavens. So somehow that plays into it. I don't know if it's what our spirits are, if it's angels, but I've seen them sober with my naked eye, beings of light. I've also wondered if when I've seen them in the heavens, if it's when we project out into the heavens when we're sleeping or go there in the afterlife, like a staging area. But I've seen them a lot of times. I've seen them when I'm not sober. I've seen them when I'm sober.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And I have too. And actually, Jeff, I think it's when we sleep, we're not dead. We're living the other half of our life. We're viewing our other dimension. Because, we're not flesh. We're only spirits living in the flesh. And all spirit is energy.
Yeah.
So all energy is never created nor destroyed. It's eternal. Now, your energy body, our memories are formed in the flesh. Okay. But what were we before we were in the flesh? We were still alive. We were light. And we were individuals. See, in Genesis when God said, "Let there be light," and he saw that it was good. Remember, that was 3 days before the actual sun and moon and stars were created. So what light is he talking about? It's talking about life, because we're told light is life. So life is basically spirit intelligence. Now, people have lived eons on this planet, not eons, thousands of years, not millions, like they try to lie to us and say. We didn't come from monkeys. We came from actually more perfect beings than we are. They lived a lot longer because they didn't have any corrupt genetics. They were perfect. They lived to be 1,000 years. The only reason we live to be 70 years old and think we're old, we got to remember back in the day, Noah didn't even have kids till he was 500 Earth years old.
Mm-hmm.
He was still growing up, still performing the act of reproduction. And he didn't die till he was 968 years old.
No.
That's Earth years.
Yeah.
But after the flood, things changed.
Mm-hmm.
Gravitation slowed down the Earth because the mass of the Earth, because of all the weight of the water, compressed the continents so that mountains squeezed up and the oceans sunk into the basins. And that affected the Earth's rotation.
Yep.
And it caused a wobble. And it caused seasons. And it caused us to be bombarded by solar radiation, which messes with our genetics.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine this. You know how atheists are disproven is because we can prove in 70 years the degradation of a human being's body by solar radiation. And scientifically, if you went back so many years, the population of the Earth would be extinct if we were millions of years old. So scientists, there's more scientists that can prove the Earth is 7,000 years old, no more than 12, than scientists that try to say the Earth is millions of years old, let alone billions. Because the matter would be decomposed, there'd be no uranium. Uranium has a half-life of 500,000 years. So they can show that the Earth is no way that old. Otherwise, we'd be a cold block of rock floating through space with no magnetic field. So understanding that we're not physics, we're spirits, we're energy. We're just living on these mobile biorobotic machines we call bodies.
Shamanic web of life. I like that kind of theory with shamanism, a web of life, and how we're kind of like God's webcams.
Well, okay, imagine this. Yes. The description of God in the Bible is omnipotent, omnipresent, all-knowing. He's everywhere. That's the quantum field.
Oh.
The mind of God is the universe. Now, but the mind of God's also learned how to create matter within itself, to occupy mass, flesh. Well, there's so many stories where God walked on the earth. He didn't fly, he walked. And he lived in a body. But are we thinking it's a body like ours that ages and dies? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a body he can inhabit. He can make it at will and disintegrate it at will. But come down like an angel. God's not an angel. He made the angels higher than humans. They're spiritual beings, but yet they can manifest as physical. There's many stories in the Bible where angels came and they manifested and they ate food as a human did. And that is where the thought that they came down, saw the female humans that were new to them, and it was a physical creation. And when they denied their first abode, which is their spiritual reality, manifested into flesh, and took women as many as they chose, they were flesh, they were human.
Mm-hmm.
They had children, but the children weren't God's design.
No.
They were half angelic, half human.
Nephilim.
People say, Jesus was half human, half God. Technically he was, but he was completely human because God used his knowledge and wisdom to use the Holy Spirit to inseminate the virgin. So that was the first person born on the earth since Adam and Eve that wasn't created by man. The consummation of male sperm and female egg. It was supernatural God that inseminated these egg. Therefore, Jesus was born without the curse of Adam and Eve, of sin. He had to live a perfect life now in the flesh. To be sacrificed is a perfect sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
People always get confused when religion starts talking about what's all up with the sacrifice and stuff. It all has to do with quantum reality, law of perfection. See, the sacrifice started when God had to kill animals to clothe Adam and Eve. When they became mortal. They didn't come mortal because they ate an apple off a tree. They became mortal when they listened to the being called Lucifer, and they believed a lie. So once they believed something other than the Word is Jesus, the Word is the creative force of God, the vibration of creation.
Mm-hmm.
Once they believed the vibration of a created being over the creator being, they lost their immortality and were all of a sudden cloaked in flesh. And they saw they were naked. They lost their glorious spiritual covering. They didn't have to mate before that.
Right.
After they became human, they had to mate. And then here's another thing. There was no death before that, anywhere on the earth. Animals didn't die. Nothing died because death came at the fall of man. Now, this is where a lot of scientists are saying, they're called creation scientists, but they got PhDs. They're as skilled as any other scientist.
Mm-hmm.
They explain how dinosaurs were all vegetarians until the fall of man.
Even after especially analysis and analyses of their teeth.
Well, the teeth of the Tyrannosaurus Rex is basically for consuming 4 foot wide coconuts.
Oh,
The fruit. Look at the fruit bat. It's a vegetarian, and its teeth are 6 inches long.
yeah.
And they're for cracking coconuts. Now, the Bible describes dinosaurs, but they call them dragons.
Yeah.
Dinosaur is a new name. Even in recent history, Chinese emperors had dragons pulling their chariots, and that's documented.
There are clay pots in some of Central and Northern South America where there are pictures of humans riding dinosaurs.
And also the Stegosaurus.
Yes, exactly.
Here's the thing. Dinosaur means terrible lizard.
Yeah.
Dragon was the name dinosaurs had before they were called dinosaurs. In the Bible, they're called Leviathan, which is the ocean version of the platypus, plesiosaur. And the Brontosaurus was described as the behemoth. But those aren't the only two descriptions in the Bible of dinosaurs. They were all tame, and actually, before the fall of Adam and Eve, they all ate plants because all the grazing animals were created on day 4, I think it was. No, day 6, when man was created. Adam and Eve. Okay. All the animals that grazed the fields all ate herbs. Dinosaurs weren't created later in the Bible. They were all created on the same day. All the creatures that crawled upon the earth. All the oxen and everything. Okay, people say, well, if that's true, then how did all the animals fit in the ark? Well, we got to remember this. Any smart, intelligent person would say, okay, you're about to wipe out all life on the earth, and you're going to reestablish earth creatures. Are you going to bring old, big, fat, dead dinosaurs, or are you going to bring babies that can breed with new genetics? You're going to bring babies. And the biggest baby dinosaur is the size of a football. That's the brontosaurus. They're the size of a football. So when the pairs came on board the ox, and remember, on the ark, they only came two of a kind. Every dog on the earth came from the wolf. Every zebra and animal like that came from the horse.
Oh, yeah.
Every hippopotamus
So
came from,
hippopotamus actually means water horse. So
yes, and they're related to the pig.
yeah.
Okay, so they all came from the like.
Yeah.
That's what people say.
Hey Pat, you ever give any thought about Dogman or the werewolf sightings? We have some people coming on about those. They're pretty serious, wrote books and documentaries and stuff. But that's pretty fascinating, though. There's been a lot of cases and a lot of increase and stuff.
Well, the Mothman has been spotted and documented in New Jersey. The New Jersey Devil, they call him.
Yep.
Imagine this: all our ancient historical books that aren't scripture speak of these demonic creatures that look like with bat wings and all this. They're actually describing dragons. Now remember what Satan's called in the Bible, the dragon. So remember in the Bible when God said you're cursed above all the animals of the field, you'll crawl on your belly and eat dirt all the days of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Modern man thinks that God turned him into a snake, but imagine this: he's basically a reptilian, a seraphim, and eating dirt all the days of your life is a spiritual term. What are we called? What was Adam made out of? Dirt.
Clay.
Right. The dirt of the earth. God formed him from the dirt of the earth, right? Clay of the earth, dirt.
Yeah.
So when God basically cast that pronouncement, and there was no death before that, basically what God was saying was, okay, man is now subject to be eaten alive by Satan. He's going to consume dirt through disease, death. There was no death before the fall. There was no cancer, aging. There was nothing like that. That's part of the curse of the fall of man.
Wow.
So now we're cursed to die physically in the flesh.
Ugh.
But we're about to have an age of, we're about to see the age of renewal, where there's a lot of people, not all people. In fact, the majority of people aren't going to go on, but many will, and be invigorated in a new body, and will live forever without death. You'll be back to the original design.
Do you remember Phil Schneider's last recorded lecture? He claims that, and it's a weird number, two weird numbers. He claims that he swears by the year 2029 that 5/8 to 7/8 of the world's population will be destroyed.
Well, I believe it'll be sooner than that, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it's not me saying it. It's predictive programming. Put it this way. We don't invent anything. We're just discovering what's already created.
Rediscover it, yes.
Now, I'm not talking as a religious fanatic. I'm talking as a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
The King James Bible is basically a scriptural book of quantum code. It's the only predictive book that's ever been written that's 100% accurate. Now, 70% of the Bible prophecies have been fulfilled 100%. No misses, none.
Mm-hmm.
The 30% that haven't been happening yet, many of them are happening daily. But prophetically, if you can understand there's a book already written about everything, and you look at it and you analyze it and transcribe it into modern technology, then we realize that there's nothing we can't find out by just reading the book. Mm-hmm. And it tells us everything in order. There's no mysteries in the book of Revelation, which means the revealing. The revealing was written by a man that was dumped in boiling oil and didn't get hurt.
Wow.
To the point where they couldn't kill him and they put him on an island. And he wrote the Revelation.
So, Pat, what do you think about the return of Christ? Do you think it's something that happens to everyone, like a spiritual kind of renaissance, or is it actually him appearing? What's your perspective on that?
Okay, I believe that he's going to come back. He's not going to land on the earth. He's going to come back. We're told he comes back in the clouds. Okay, I wrote a whole report on it, and it's got 360 instances where the Bible describes clouds, and it's talking about UFOs. There's no other explanation. Clouds in the Bible are craft.
Jerusalem sounds like a big UFO, like a mothership.
Yeah, there's so many descriptions of clouds and God's clouds. He flies around in his cloud like lightning. His cloud illuminated the landscape. He's standing in the beam of the cloud, calling out to Enoch. Okay, you got a UFO with a beam, and God's inside the beam calling out to Enoch. The cloud followed the Israelites, led them by day in a pillar of cloud, cigar-shaped UFO, perpendicular, which many people have cited in modern times.
Yeah, and most often translated as pillar of fire.
Well, at night.
And a column of smoke by day, yeah.
So, but if you read all the description, I'll send you that report. And I've got literally word for word all the scripture that talks about God's cloud. So a lot of these modern day preachers misunderstand scripture, and they say he's coming in the clouds in his glory. What that means is he's coming in these craft that are lit up like suns. Okay. Not because God needs technology, it's because God created technology. And he's not going to come flying in the clouds naked, flying around like a ghost, because he's not a ghost. We look like God. We're built in his image. So because we like to create things, we like to fly things, we like to drive things, it's fun. Don't you? We think somebody more advanced than us that has a body our design and a mind that's way beyond ours can create technology using the laws of nature that he created. See, all we're doing in our modern world, this computer, we're looking at each other, we're talking to each other, of inert matter made out of oil, plastic, glass, electronics made out of gold, copper.
Yeah.
Everything's just put in a functional form where we're cheating the laws of nature. We're speaking to each other from miles apart, like we're here. And we're looking at each other like we're really here, and we're just flat screen pixels.
Yeah.
God uses technology the same way because he created the universe and he understands every function of natural law. So he can make machinery that just blows our mind. Living craft. There's been many examples of UFOs and descriptions of them as living machines.
Jellyfish. Yeah.
With intelligence. You know the Forsheim incident back in England, where the nuclear base, they went out and found this UFO that was triangular shaped. It had
Rendlesham.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the guys that saw that said that craft was alive. It was a living craft. They could sense it.
I've seen a wide variety of craft, and some have been like sea life, but in the sky and glowing. And I saw those with friends. We were partying and doing stuff, but that seemed to open it up somehow. And then, of course, the light beings a lot. And there's been many times where UFOs have been over my homes to each one I've moved at.
Mm-hmm.
And it appeared as if the UFO might have been there for me, but I don't try to let it go to my head or anything, but it certainly seems like that, and people agree. And those are the ones that I don't think I've been taken, but I wonder if I just don't remember and I have, or maybe they worked with me astrally. There's been a lot to where it seems like that UFO is there for me, or people near me.
Honestly, it was. And I'll tell you what, not all UFOs are evil.
Yeah.
Because we got to remember the universe, the only other beings besides humans are angelic. And there's 9 levels of angels. There's 9 hierarchies.
Yeah.
The kingdom is not a chaotic order of evolved beings. It's a structured kingdom. And the angels are beings of light.
Yeah.
They're highly intelligent, and they have powers that we can't imagine.
There
Now,
was
okay,
one.
why would God build cities if we didn't have bodies? Remember, we're told
I've seen.
we got
Yeah,
a city
yeah.
we're going to live in,
Cities of light. I've
and
seen
cities
those
with
black.
clear goals, clear
I've,
goals.
I've seen those black pyramid craft over power lines, and they seem to be taking some kind of energy from them. And a ball of light came out towards me and a friend, and I don't remember anything else after that. But I don't know if I was taken or not. But I remember that they had something to do, and those could have been government. I don't know what they were, but they were doing something with the power lines and floating over them.
Well, Jeff, most people that are living in this day and age that are consciously aware of things like you are and Jay is and I am and many others have more than likely been communicated with by both sources, good and bad, because we're living in the end times, the generation that we're the generation of the fig tree. In other words, it's no chance, no coincidence that Israel was scattered, like the Bible says, and they were regrouped, they were regathered, and now they're the most powerful nation on the earth.
Yeah.
But look how little they are. They're the size of New Jersey, and they're surrounded by their enemies. Technologically, they got 3 different defense systems of wiping out missiles that attack them.
Yeah.
You know, they got the David Sling, they got the Iron Dome. Now, of course, we developed all this technology with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are Israel.
The area,
We are
too.
Israel. America is Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Jerusalem, Jerusalem.
You got to be dumb to be messing with them anyway. I mean, they seem like they'll beat the hell out of you.
Well, I'll put it this way. The creator of the universe that said, anybody that blesses them, he'll bless. Anybody that condemns them, he'll condemn. The only reason America is so great is because we bless them. Not because we're smart, not because we're better than anybody else.
Yeah.
We're losing our blessings, though, with Biden. And it's not just Biden. It's the whole system.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Technologically, you and me and Jay are living in a day and age when 10 years ago, there was no cell phones, remember?
Yeah.
We're living in the day and age of 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there wasn't no internet. 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Now we have internet, we have phones, we have cars, airplanes.
The
People
cell phones we have would power the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs twice over for all programs combined.
Now, like Jeffrey said, he's seen these UFOs. I've seen a lot of them myself. Yeah. From the military to taking pictures of the clouds, and all of a sudden later I'll look at the photo and there's a UFO. I didn't see it, but the camera captured it. That happens a lot. I don't ever find myself going outside and looking up at the sky often. The only time I've done it is, for a reason. We're kind of brainwashed into looking at our world. People that lived outdoors without light pollution, they're looked up a lot. Mm-hmm. And you still see these pictures on YouTube and everywhere else where they're taking pictures and you see things shooting by that aren't falling stars and they're moving pretty weird.
Yeah.
And you get that one guy that goes out and can attract UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
He can
get them. They don't like me anymore, I don't think. I used to be able to do it. I think they threw me away.
Well, here's something.
Too much weed.
Might be a good thing.
But that Chris Bledsoe stuff and that Beyond Skinwalker Ranch show, that's what he does. And I used to be able to do similar things. But what's creepy, look up that UFO of God book on Amazon. It has good reviews. I got it, but I never finished it. But it's creepy because that Colonel John Alexander's like, you can be one too. And they're all like saying they can do it in their reviews now. And it's pretty creepy.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, remember the Gods of Eden? That was a book.
I was just looking at that book.
I think it was Sentient.
No, it's a different dude.
Yeah, it's a different guy. I remember.
I have it.
That's a pretty good book.
I just picked it up yesterday, clean and show.
When I was growing up in the world of esoterica, I was thinking God was an alien and all this stuff. Yeah. Now I realize, well, no, God is the leader of the universe, and he created angels, and they are what we call aliens. You know,
William Bromley. William Bromley.
Yeah, William Brumley. You know, like the people that say they see the Nordics, those are angels. You know.
Yeah.
Now the only thing is, real angels are male. So when people are seeing beautiful females, which I've seen, they appear good. They appear nice. But I know deep down they're demonic, but I don't let them know I'm thinking that.
Yep.
Because, of course, they're going to use every tactic in the book to trick a human. Satan's smarter than we are. He's subtle. And he doesn't die. So he's literally had thousands of years to come up with a good plan.
We got about 7 minutes. And, Pat, I was going to ask you, do you have an android woman locked in your basement?
No, she's remote. But actually, we got one in Korea. We got one at Scott Air Force Base. And a couple other places I better not mention. I don't want to get killed this early. But now listen. We've got robotics that would blow you away. They've literally eaten with the president. Wow. Not Biden.
Hey, I had a guy, a friend of mine, I'm not going to say his name, but he co-hosted with me before. Uh-huh. His dad worked with the Pentagon, and this guy swears up and down he went there with his dad, and there was an alien named Bob that was like that worked with them and was there to learn the ways of humans, and he liked baseball and this in-depth story, and he came on the show and told it, and his dad really works for the Pentagon, and I'm like, well, maybe it's true, or this dude's absolutely batshit.
Yeah. Honestly, the government has what they call a foreign exchange program, technology exchange program. They're under the impression that these are aliens, and they're giving them technology. I personally have only realized in the last 5 years they're not aliens. They're angelic.
They're like angelic. Satanic inhabitants of the earth.
Yes, they're physical.
That's what I think a lot of Skinwalker Ranch.
They're working with the military.
Skinwalker Ranch is always having something mess with their equipment. Maybe that's what they're interacting is, these dark forces or whatever. What's weird is they have a computer there named Satan that they jokingly call. They really are serious and call it Satan.
They really do have that. And they also, just like the Pope has a telescope called Lucifer.
What are they doing?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah,
it's an analogy. It's a, what do you call it? Like all our projects, Dragon means Dimensional Reconnaissance and Geospatial Observation Network. The word means something else. It's an abbreviation.
Oxymoron.
Yeah. Like Silver Monkey is actually a sentient, intelligent, silver intelligent, linearly vectored energy robotic. And monkey means I'd have to look it up now. I used to have it memorized, but silver monkey is actually an analogy. It means an actual scientific term for a neuromorphic computing system. Imagine this. Imagine creating the brain before you create the body. Well, that's what life is. The brain is the universe, and it created itself, its body out of its own intelligence. A lot of our technology that humans got was conceived first and then re-engineered to make it work. Back in the day when inventors in the Renaissance would have to build a prototype and then expand outwardly. We now know that if we can think of it, conceive it, then we can build it. There's no limit. The only limit was technology on materials technology. Now the materials technology is advanced to the point where if we can imagine it, we can build it. So Definitely. We imagine a computer system that's like a human being, which is now commercially available, called DeepMind. And it's trained itself to out-design us. We got engineers that are super smart, but we got AI computing systems that are smarter than that. And they can design themselves, improve themselves to the point where we had to create a override system called Asterius, which stands for Operating System technical interruption and resolution, independent universal shutdown. In Air Force terms, that is a software override system that will literally pull the plug on an AI robotic that goes rogue.
That's crazy.
And in Latin, it means gatekeeper.
Nice.
Gatekeeper.
Well, we got like 3 minutes. I looked up that Ascension comic book behind you. I was wondering what that was. I found it.
Art Bat. Yeah, that's pretty cool, ain't it?
Yeah. There's a comic book series I'm keeping up with now, and I'll try to tell it real quick because we only got 3 minutes. But
there's a better view.
The guy that did Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman, just did these comics called Void Rivals. They're doing a whole shared universe with G.I. Joe and Transformers. So Void Rivals, G.I. Joe, Transformers in their own universe interacting with each other. But then he put out a Cobra Commander comic and a Duke comic, and there's about to be a bunch. But basically, it's a G.I. Joe, Void Rivals, Transformers whole universe by Image Comics by the guy that did Walking Dead. But in the Cobra Commander comic, Cobra Commander comes from a place like the Hollow Earth called Cobra Shangri-La something, and it's this race of tall serpent people. And he's a human there, but in that story, there's this crazy serpent people that's pretty nuts, but it's pretty wild. But that's the only comic I've been keeping up with besides a few others, but it's hard to. But yeah, we got a few minutes. Give us some links, Pat. It's been a great show. It's been great. We appreciate it so much. And what are some links?
Okay, well, I don't know if you noticed, but I've been creating videos lately. The videos are actually a new graphic imaging technology. We're using YouTube to put out a lot of stuff without censorship. And I put it on Facebook too. Basically, the reports we write and release are also full of information. Remember, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So when you see these graphic images, artificial intelligence reads it differently. They read numbers into the pictures, which have patterns, which have messages. Now, the videos we're creating are actually using AI to edit. So we put music and graphics into a video, which the average human looks at and just think that's a pretty cool music video. But if you really watch it, you're getting messages that your subconscious will understand. That's one new technology we're doing. It's not a new technology. It's actually an old technology. That's how come everybody's brainwashed watching TV. Yeah. But we're utilizing it to disclose our AI information. Another good thing to watch out for is Elon Musk. Watch him. He's going to be a player in the end times. He's already a player in the end times. He's going to be a potential candidate for one of the people running the world after during the tribulation. He's not Christian, so he's not going nowhere. What I told you before, I think Jesus is going to come back. We're all going to be evacuated. Those who belong. Mm-hmm. You don't belong because you earned it. You only belong because you believed it. In fact, there's no such thing as earning salvation. Salvation is basically guaranteed new body, new life. From the reboot. The reboot's coming. We're living in a giant hologram when the sky will roll up as a scroll with a loud roar. And there'll be a new heaven and new earth. That's basically a term for a reboot of the whole system.
Yeah.
Now, because we're energy beings, we're all living in a giant matrix. We get to get new bodies and live an eternal life on this earth. This earth will be remade. And we'll all be living in a better body, a higher stage body that won't age.
Do you want to give out your Facebook or a link or something? Because I got to close out. But it's been great.
Well, how other than show you, you can see me, the YouTube. It's on my Facebook. All the links are on there. Okay, so just Pat Horn on Facebook. Yeah, on my video, I got the video site there, and I got our LinkedIn site, and I also have those libraries I put on Facebook are free for anybody to use. All our technology. And he hangs out in our Church of Mabus group, so you can find him there as well. Yeah. We appreciate it so much, Pat. It was a great show, a wealth of information. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, man. And we'll stay in touch and have you on again sometime, but that was really good. Thank you. Thank you guys, and y'all have a great weekend.
You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Everybody have a great weekend. Take care.